conclude this first lecture, we will finish with stage 5, which is a brief stage. I call it the Umayyad rule and the aftermath of the Husseini Revolution. And this is from year 40 until about the year 64 Hijri. So in the early days after Ali passed away, most Shia were simply political, never differed with the rest of the Muslims in theological matters. Most of Ali's Shia, the dedicated Shia, preferred Ali over Uthman. So for them, this was the majority of Ali's supporters. For them, it was Abu Bakr, then Omar, then Ali, then Uthman, as opposed to Ahl Sunnah today who say Abu Bakr, Omar, Uthman, Ali. As for the strict Shia of Ali, they went as far as to prefer Ali over Abu Bakr and Omar, okay, as opposed to what Ali himself said. These types of guys, they would call them Shi'i Jalid, strict Shi'i. While the smallest minority were those that held belief about Ali's divinity. So they were basically Saba'iyya, extremist Shia. At this point, there is no concept of Ali's divine abilities being transferred to his children after him. The Saba'i belief was simply that every prophet had a legatee, had a wasi. And the wasi of the Prophet ﷺ was Ali ibn Abi Talib, and end of story. It stops there. There is no such thing as, oh, it continues in the children of Ali and whatnot. It was just restricted to that. And that's why they said that Ali will return. And they kept believing in Ali even after he passed away. They didn't do qata. They were not qata'iyya. They didn't surpass Ali and simply say that, oh, now it's handed to somebody else. The majority of the Shia at this point pledged allegiance to Al-Hasan bin Ali, hoping that he would continue in the footsteps of his father. Al-Hasan bin Ali had a different opinion. If you review the books of history, you'll find Hasan bin Ali often disagreeing with his father in the events of the civil war. He strove for peace and handed it to Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan. He had no ambitions for leadership whatsoever, especially if it was going to lead to bloodshed and fitna. This disappointed the Shia, and it also disappointed Al-Hasan's younger brother, Hussein. After Yazid took the reins of power, the people rebelled. People were unhappy that Yazid was basically appointed, and that Muawiyah would appoint his son. And the Shia were the first of the people who were not happy with this. And at the forefront was Hussein bin Ali. Al-Hussein bin Ali. Unfortunately, Hussein did a revolution, and his supporters, his Shia, they did not give him proper support and protection. So the revolution ended in tragedy, and he was martyred and passed away, alayhi salam. The vast bulk of the Shia at that point in time adopted 2 men from Fatima's children as their leaders. The first man is Al-Hasan bin Ali bin Abi Talib, whose title was Al-Muthanna. The second man was Ali bin Hussein bin Ali bin Abi Talib, whose title was Zain al-Abidin. And the Shia of those times, obviously, they were more political. Obviously, they had no weird beliefs, and they had no issue with having 2 leaders at once to represent them. Unlike the Shia of our days, like the 12 version nowadays, say that it is impossible to have 2 imams at once after Hassan al-Hussein. So they kind of like tweaked it to fit their idea. The Shia at the time, by majority, had no issue believing in 2 men, one being from the children of Hassan, one being from the children of Hussein, and there was no issue. In fact, some of the Shia took Muhammad bin al-Hanafiya as their leader. Muhammad bin al-Hanafiya is Muhammad bin Ali bin Abi Talib. He is Ali's son, and but he is not from Fatima. He is from another of Ali's wives. So Muhammad bin Hanafiya was favored by a group of the Shia at the time because he had some political aspiration, he had ambition, and he had seniority, meaning he was much older than Ali bin Hussein or Hassan bin Hassan, who were much, much younger than him, as far as I recall at least. So at the end of this, we just mention, we go all the way and travel to Qum to mention that by the end of the 1st century, which is the time where we are, actually this is in the first half of the 1st century, some of the Mawali of Banu al-Abbas some of the clients of Banu al-Abbas, moved to the area which is known today as Qum. They were of political Shia leanings, and they were also followed by a man called Sa'ib bin Malik al-Ash'ari. Sa'ib bin Malik al-Ash'ari. And he was the Sheikh of the Shia in Kufa at the time. He was from the heads of the Shia at Kufa. He also went to that area of Qum. And he was from the people who stuck with al-Mukhtar all the way to the end. So he was a very dedicated Shia. So that area, which is known as Qum, already had some elements of Shiaism in it at the time. At least politically, it had some elements of Shiaism at the time. So we'll continue the rest of the Shia development in the next episode, inshallah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.